All right, welcome back, folks. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr., and this is Yankees Unloaded. So, in case you were wondering if we were just, those people that were riding the wave and then was going to just fall off the moment they lost, no, that's not how we play things over here. Gary, you were at the game. I'm sorry. That was a tough game to be at. It really didn't look good from the get-go. You texted me, it's like basically like, oh no, this isn't good. And I hate to be like I told you so, but you and I both really warned everybody about Zach Gallen. And I understand the Yankees approach at taking pitches, and they worked 3 walks. But by the way, shout out to some of the people commenting, Zach Gallen is going to throw outside the zone. How patient the Yankees have been. They have a chance. Not with this home plate umpire, they don't.
Yeah, it was honestly probably much better to watch it live because you can't see how bad the umpiring is. Because I actually was telling my wife this. Yeah, definitely. And my wife was actually saying this. She's like, "Oh, it doesn't look that bad from here." I was like, "Well, thankfully we're 300 feet from home plate, so we can't exactly see how bad it is." But you actually mentioned this before we went live. When you see how demonstrative Aaron Judge is and Anthony Volpe and Rizzo is more so on his check swing. But when you're looking at hitters, like essentially echoing the same sentiment, coming back to the dugout is we're striking out looking, hey, what's that? What's this? Trust me, a lot of times you'll see guys and they'll take their frustrations out on the umpire. But having looked at K-Zone, Jake was sending me K-Zone, and just seeing where pitches are being called on some of our players, we've been complaining about the umpires for actually like 3 or 4 games in a row now. Yeah. Okay, this is not just this crew. Overall, the umpiring has been very poor across baseball. Absolutely. The strike zone has been atrocious. Okay. And this is also coming on the heels of the New York Yankees completely revamping their approach and being more patient, and not just pitches that they swing at, but pitches that they're choosing to swing at, like in terms of hitting the ball. Okay. Now, those things really matter when it comes to driving the ball and scoring runs, scoring some ugly runs, which I've talked about. But when you're looking at the Yankees and you're seeing Juan Soto, you're seeing Aaron Judge, you're seeing Rizzo, Stanton, just staring at pitches. Okay. These guys have been in the big leagues for a long time. I know Juan Soto is only 25. Feels like he's been in the league forever. He knows the strike zone. So I want to make sure that we just take this loss on the chin and recognize that we also didn't come to play tonight. We talked about this matchup. We needed game 1. We got it. Okay. That was a huge win for the Yankees. And I said, and you mentioned it as well, game 2 is not looking good. And of course it didn't go well. Now, we'll take that win for us, but at the same time, game 3 is big for us. It just is. We loved what we saw out of Heel. Nestor Cortes was pretty much what we expected him to be. We expected him to struggle at times and then be good other times. He pretty much managed his way around this game. Didn't come ready to play in the first inning, got shelled, was down 3-0. And when you're facing Zach Gallen, that's a loss. Yeah, so
every time.
That's just every single time, especially at home. So it's unfortunate that that's the way it cracked out, but we have to get up tomorrow and go play.
Yeah, a little bit earlier too. I believe it's like a 3 p.m. game. Yeah, I think it's important, like you mentioned, to shed light on the fact that yes, the umpiring has been really poor. But yeah, they didn't look great today. And that we're not making excuses. We're just pointing out the obvious. Everybody's going to be talking about the umpiring tomorrow. It was horrible. I mean, it really was, but not as bad as Giancarlo Stanton at the dish. Oh my God, man. When he strikes out, he looks like the worst player in Major League Baseball. I mean, he looks horrendous. And it goes back to what you said. I mean, he'll go like 1 for 5 and just hit a home run in the 9th inning, and you're like, all is forgotten for that time being. And then he'll have games where, he'll hit moonshot after moonshot. He'll hit like 2 in a game, and you're like, oh, see, now Stanton's coming along. And then it's like 5 games in a row and he's just dust. And it's kind of sad when you think about it, because I understand that there are the Stanton truthers out there that think that they have like this gotcha. He's actually been way better than you realize. The problem is he hasn't, because Stanton was brought to the Yankees to be the MVP that he was in the NL. And he immediately was not that. And we are way too forgiving of that. Stanton has been an absolute bust in that sense until you get to the postseason. And that is what really has allowed him to kind of just like live without, he still has criticism, but he's not like, people aren't getting on him like they're going to get on Trevino. Like I'm going to get on Trevino. But I think,
yes, because it's almost like 2020 just was this bailout plan. It's like, okay, well, and don't get me wrong, we have to give him credit for those performances. He was spectacular. Him and Gleyber Torres both were excellent during that 2020 postseason run where we ran out of pitching. But having
said 4 years ago,
that's a long time ago. That's one. But two, yes, you're absolutely right. We almost in a way do give him a pass because at no point in his entire tenure as a Yankee was he ever Giancarlo Stanton that we saw in Miami. We never saw that. Now, I'm not saying you got to hit 52 bombs and hit 300, but 280 and 40 bombs, 45 bombs would suffice. But we didn't get that version of Giancarlo Stanton. At no point has Giancarlo Stanton been a consistent bat in the Yankees lineup. It's never happened before. We've essentially seen him be the player of the month 1 month. And I said this is essentially what we're asking for now. Player of the month 1 month. And then the next month, he's like an 8 hitter.
Yeah.
And he's literally an out for 3 weeks in a row. And then he just kind of plugs the lineup. It was very similar to what you saw at Josh Donaldson last year. But the difference between Josh Donaldson and Giancarlo Stanton is that the ceiling is much higher for Giancarlo. Giancarlo can turn it on for 10 days and just rake. And then you're saying to yourself, well, it's a good thing. He's driving in all these runs. He's picking up Judge. Maybe Judge misses a week. Giancarlo's got the physical capabilities to pick him up. But at the same time, my God, is the floor low. He looked absolutely treacherous tonight. Horrible swings, just made no adjustments whatsoever. And this is not just a Giancarlo issue. This was a team-wide issue tonight. No one really made necessary adjustments. And I want to make sure that yes, the topic is umpiring. The umpiring has been atrocious, even in wins.
So
but having said that, you can't just wait for the umpires to do a better job for you to start making adjustments. The Yankees needed to take away the bottom half of the strike zone or even below the strike zone. Unfortunately, not much you can do there. But at the same time, there were other ways that the Yankees were just playing sloppy baseball. They just did not come ready to play. Nestor Cortes was not hitting locations at all in the first inning, and it cost them today. Obviously, it was 7-0, so it feels like that didn't matter. But how much chance did the Yankees feel like they had in the second or third inning down 3-0 already? So, yeah, I just want to make sure that the Yankees, at the same time of blaming umpires in a way, are also taking accountability for not making those necessary adjustments.
No, I agree with you. And we had to hold back because we were doing our isolated video on Anthony Volpe. But you and I were not happy about Jose Trevino being in the lineup. And we were not happy with Volpe batting 7th. I mean, we touched on Volpe, so I don't want to beat a dead horse. We've made our presence known on that one. We want him to be the leadoff hitter, but at the very least, batting 7th. Can you move him up in the order? I mean, he's hitting better than everybody. But all jokes aside and everything, Trevino he's not good. He's really not. Behind the plate, good defensive player. His bat leaves a lot to be desired, Gary. I mean, that was such a pathetic plate appearance to strike out there with a runner in scoring position, the only runner in scoring position the whole game. Cabrera gets on. Now you have Volpe at second, and then he strikes out. I'm kind of tired of it because, we got on Higashioka. This is worse than Higashioka, if I'm being honest. And my thing is, I know it's early on, but it's not early on because if you look, Trevino hasn't been good at the plate since that first half of the season.
Your favorite, the All-Star game.
The All-Star game. Oh, I'm an All-Star. Congrats. You played good first half of the season. And it's not even a full 82 games, I don't think.
Right.
I think
I don't think it is.
I don't even think it's close. So there you go. I don't want to just bag on him for the sake of bagging on him. I didn't like that he couldn't beat out, that ground ball the other day. And I thought his plate appearances were horrible, man. And I mean, he offers really nothing when the ball hits his bat. He's hitting 60 miles per hour off the bat. I don't know what's, it looks like he runs obviously slower than he hits it, but it's like they're about equal in that sense. Cabrera had a huge play at third. I think, some silver linings here. Cabrera had a huge play at third, great diving stop, was able to get him. You notice Cabrera had all the arm in the world on that when he didn't have to sit there and clutch it. Why does he do that? Why does he do that? The dude has a gun. I didn't even know that.
He has a gun. Can I say one thing about Trevino though?
Yeah.
I want to say this, and this is a defense that some people have had in our comment section because we read all of them.
Yeah.
And it's fair. People bring up the fact that Anthony Volpe's, this has been over a short sample size. Spring training, he obviously was very consistent, very flat swing. He was excellent. But spring training doesn't mean everything, as we all know. But having said that, the Yankees have only played 6 games this year. He's been excellent, and he's been really good in all 6 games, essentially. Or 5 games, because he was sick for one of those games. Now, having said that, Trevino, we're talking about his struggles, and it's yet in a short sample size. I guess you can say second half of last year, and then this year, at the very beginning, he's not swung the bat well. But let me say this. You have to go off something when you make roster decisions and deciding who plays where. And ultimately, you have to use some form of reference point to decide that someone's playing over somebody else. That's the way the lineup works. Okay. And Austin Wells has done, there's nothing on a baseball field that Trevino's doing that Austin Wells hasn't proven he could do, or at the very least deserves an opportunity to prove he can do that. Now, immediately when Austin Wells came into this game, you saw him go the other way with a baseball, essentially to the track. He's just a more well-rounded bat, and it's something that the Yankees frankly need. And the gap defensively is not that wide. And also, this is my biggest point that I had to bring up. I mentioned this before the show, before the entire game. I mentioned, what has Nestor Cortes done in the last year and some change to demand or ask for Trevino to be catching him? He's not Garrett Cole. This is no knock. I love Nestor Cortes. I want him to figure it out. I want him to be a Yankee for the foreseeable future, and I expect him.
Same here.
But having said that, there are only a select few of pitchers, maybe a Shohei Ohtani, maybe Max Scherzer in his prime, Garrett Cole. We're not talking about Curt Schilling or Pedro Martinez here. We are talking about Nestor Cortes, someone who you could argue is the Yankees' 3 or 4 starter currently, with Garrett Cole as being out. He is maybe our 3 or 4 starter. He's not done enough in the short term or the long term to tell me that somebody else that's a better option for the team should be sitting so that Trevino can catch him. That, in my opinion, makes no sense at all. If he's hot, if we're talking about Nestor Cortes and he's potentially starting the All-Star game, or he's at the very least knocking on the door, I would understand bringing this matchup and making him comfortable, making sure that he's right. But could you imagine if like a Carlos Rodon, who struggled pretty much all of last year, had the nerve to tell Aaron Boone, hey, I don't want this guy catching for me. Let's get this guy behind the plate. That would be awfully nervy. Well, we're watching the same thing happen with Nestor Cortes. I am not down with it.
No, I'm not down with it either. Plus, it's funny. Michael Kay brought up a completely different thing, but he kind of went in on the Diamondbacks manager for basically saying we're going to give Corbin Carroll a day off. And he's like, why is Corbin Carroll getting a day off in game 6? Like,
it's nonsensical.
Yeah. So he went in on that. And my thing is, like, it's not the same thing, but why is Austin Wells not starting every day? It's not like Trevino is on the cusp. Like, he's 31 years old. Austin Wells is the future. All you are doing is taking him out of a rhythm. And I mean, we already saw Judge is out of a rhythm because, I mean, I am not at all hating on Boone. I totally get the rationale behind just taking him out of spring training. He had plenty of at-bats. He's healthy. You got to make sure he stays healthy. But it's hurt his start to the year. You can tell. He had some fastballs, 92-mile-an-hour fastball, and he misses it. And you're like, what's going on? I mean, normally he would drill that, And I just feel like going back to Wells, like, You got to play these guys every day. There's no reason why you should be doing rest days and mixing things up for guys like that. Stanton doesn't offer anything in the field anymore. He is just a DH. So when Stanton isn't, your designated hitter isn't hitting well, he can be benched. But when you're benching an everyday player, a young everyday player, a guy who's part of potentially your young core, I'm sorry, I'm absolutely against that. And it looks even worse because he brings in Austin Wells and pitch hits him at the end of the game. Like when the game's like over. And it's like,
see, I get it with Aaron Judge because obviously, and so do you. We get it because the priority is health. We know who Aaron Judge is. Yeah, if he gets off to a slow start, he's going to be hot by the end of this month or maybe the beginning of next month. But he's in his 30s. So he knows how to get himself prepared to play baseball, and we know what we're getting from him. There's a reason we signed him to a $360 million deal. But having said that, you just mentioned the fact, why aren't we playing Austin Wells? Was he tired? Why isn't Corbin Carroll playing for Arizona? Is he tired? Oh, we wanted to give him a day. For what? What are you giving them a day for? Let's remember something. Anthony Volpe didn't play the other day because he was sick. Let's be clear. When you're hot, when you're ready to go, you're swinging a hot bat, you're playing good defense, you're making sound plays in the field, you're playing smart. The last thing you want to do is sit on the bench. You want to ride that momentum. And we've talked about this as Yankees fans in general over the past few years, is that we've seen hot players, including Giancarlo Stanton, have a day off for no apparent reason. Essentially having a day off in the middle of a hot streak so that you can preserve someone's health. That's not the way we should be playing baseball. We've been doing that for years. It doesn't work. Just play, guys. If you wake up in the morning and a player's ready to play, he should be playing. Don't tell me anything. If a player doesn't play, such as Corbin Carroll, such as Austin Wells, such as all those guys that we consider to be everyday players, should be everyday players for their respected teams. If they're not feeling, essentially, if they're not ailing in the morning of the game, they should be playing. Don't tell me about, we've got a flight to Japan. We've got a flight to the West Coast early morning. I don't want to hear any of that stuff. You're flying first class chartered flights. You massage therapists.
It's game 6 of 162.
We're not talking about game 148. The Yankees are 4 games up in the division or in a pennant race. We want to make sure our guys are fresh in September. No. Last I checked, it is April 2nd. Austin Wells is ready to play. Corbin Carroll is ready to play. All these guys, Giancarlo, Aaron Judge, as long as they're not physically injured, they should be on the field and preparing for the upcoming games. That's all it is. And so I'm glad that Michael Kay brought that up because I thought it's very important. Yeah, it's very important to remember. We can't just accept what's the new status quo in Major League Baseball or just sports in general, where we punt the short term and suggest that the long-term goal is just always the correct choice. Because it almost, in a way, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Jake, it almost seems like you're shortcutting the process. Like tomorrow is more important or next week's more important than today because it's just April. And I just disagree with that. I think every game counts.
Well, and I also try to see all the avenues in it. And to me, I understand from a competitive standpoint, okay. I don't understand it right now, but I understand why you would sit a guy. But I'm thinking it's April. How much did those tickets cost, Gary?
They were free for me.
Okay. Well, you're killing my
I'll say the answer just for your point. I'm pretty sure the tickets were like $100 a pop.
Yeah. So you have these people paying $100 a pop in this, this economy, and Corbin Carroll's not out there. The young Corbin Carroll is not out there in game 6. And guess when you're finding this out? Well, if you just happen to, I'm going to go, you buy tickets early in the morning. Guess what you just found out? You find this out 3 hours before the game. That's not enough time to be like, well, my favorite player's not hitting. It's like,
what? I found it out. When I found it out? After I paid $90 for concessions. Yes, you heard that correct, ladies and gentlemen. I paid $90 for 2 foot-long Dookie hot dogs that were horrendous with some Cajun fries who had no seasoning on them whatsoever. I get back to my seat and said, "Where's Corbin Carroll? That's interesting, huh? Oh wow, Austin Wells isn't playing. Yeah, no, I figured out all this around game time, so it was real nice.
Yeah,
but you're absolutely correct.
Awful.
You can't have people spending their hard-earned money and they don't get an opportunity to see a healthy player. If Corbin Carroll has a pulled hamstring and he's dealing with something, don't lie to me. Don't just tell me, and they don't even lie to us. They'll literally tell us he gave him a day.
Oh, yeah, they don't care. And the reason they don't care is because it's not a problem in baseball like it is in the NBA. And even though it's a problem in the NBA, it's not talked about nearly enough.
No.
I mean, like Popovich will be like, "Oh, you came to see Wemby? Sorry. $400 down the drain," because NBA tickets are outrageously overpriced. So there you go. But going back to baseball, I see people getting on Verdugo. I mean, if you want, you can go and you can watch last year's left fielder, Aaron Hicks. Go watch him in the field if that would do you better. I don't know what was more depressing, watching him in the field or at the dish. I could not stand Aaron Hicks. I never liked Aaron Hicks. I thought it was a bad signing. And I'll
Pretty
never
good on
forget.
The golf course. I'll give him that.
I'll never forget, Gary, when he just stood like a statue and like depressed, like head down and everything. Like he was a toddler, like his, mom took away a toy and he's just staring at the ball. You want to go back to that? I'm not trying to defend Verdugo every time he bats a crap, right? Mm-hmm. But like it is early. Like with Trevino, last year he was not good. That's my point. Stanton, last year he was not good. Verdugo was good last year.
That's right.
And he is leaps and bounds better than anybody they put in left field last year. So I'll wait for him. Rizzo, you said, you're bummed out about the way he's played as of late. And again, it's super early. We get that.
And this isn't just offensively with Rizzo. This is fielding has been an atrocity. Okay,
so
he was atrocious yesterday.
Cabrera gets hit with the throwing error.
Yes.
I disagree with that.
Trust me, I get the logistics of why that's an error, because it was in the dirt, and naturally when you throw the ball in the dirt, it shouldn't be there, sure. But that's a play. When you're not swinging a hot bat, that's a play you have to make. That play has to be made 10 out of 10 times. I get baseball is difficult. These plays are hard. Guys, I'm not here to say that these plays, like I'd be out there making these plays, but let's be clear. When you pay a guy the type of money that the Yankees are paying Rizzo in the short term, those plays have got to be made. Yesterday, mental error, they talked about it on the broadcast. They said the guy was going down the third base line. He was probably peeking at him going home, and he made a mistake, took his eye off the ball. Long story short, third and first with nobody out instead of getting the sure out. Guy wasn't even going home, okay? Now, these are things that veteran players shouldn't be. These are issues that veteran players necessarily shouldn't be making, okay? And that is essentially where my gripe with him is. But when it comes to Alex Verdugo is a career 280 hitter, okay?
Yeah,
the players that we've been talking about, the players that you mentioned, Jake, they have been atrocious in left field over the years for the New York Yankees. Not one of them had a career 280 batting average. Not
I don't think
one
they
of
ever
them
had a 280 batting average.
Can someone show me
the game, first at bat?
Someone show me where Aaron Hicks hit 280. And this is not me saying he's a bad baseball player, because he's not. It's very difficult to perform consistently in Major League Baseball. But let's be very clear about something. When a player comes in, you say, oh, wow, he hit 280 this year. Okay. And this is not a power guy. This is just a contact all around player. And you'd be surprised to hear that number. That's a player that probably needs to be replaced soon. Okay. Alex Verdugo, if we got last year's Alex Verdugo, we'd be just fine. We'd be happy with it. So let's give him an opportunity to show us who he's already been. And if he doesn't do that over an extended period of time, we both, Jake and I, and everyone who watches the show will talk about it, and we will not let it go.
Absolutely. That's the way it is. We're trying to keep things fair. And it's just like, again, I understand, but I'm looking at Trevino's, statistics, and it's like, his career high batting average is every single year in Texas except for 2021. Like the Yankee, we go crazy about the 248 season because of what he was before the All-Star break. the reality of the situation is that Trevino that year, with half a good season, had a 2.3 WAR, which is a career high. Since 0.5, and he is a 0 right now. He batted 210 last year, a 570 OPS. Okay.
He's also coming off wrist surgery, by the way. So he got wrist surgery last year in 2023. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a player who has never shown long-term success, which
he's 31,
which Jake just alluded to. He's a veteran player. He's also off of surgery. Okay. And then you have a young buck who's actually been swinging a pretty nice bat in his 9 at-bats he's had so far. He's going the other way. His approach seems nice. He's catching a very clean game, much better than what I expected. Why would he be playing?
Absolutely. And actually, to add to that, because you were talking about clean game, I like that you brought that up, because I saw people getting on him. You know where this is going. The pass balls. Catching a pitcher that you have never seen before is impossible. It's impossible, because he's not like in the major leagues. Like, we're not talking about like fall ball or, whatever. Like, he just throws a 4-seamer and a 2-seamer. No. Jake Cousins is out here throwing these crazy sweeping sliders. And I think, Cone brought it up and was like, he's never caught this guy before. So, he's been really good behind the plate. He's going to give up these pass balls because you don't have any sort of rapport with this guy. Jake Cousins was like memed immediately by Gary. Gary was like, he just literally
food on.
Yeah. But I thought Jake Cousins pitched really well after that. That's the thing that sucks. He had 4 strikeouts, Gary. Like, I mean, his stuff was disgusting. And really what I was looking for at that point, the game's over. After you give up the 3-run shot, you're like, okay, the game's really over now. After that, I'm just trying to see what they see in him, what they have in him. Were we wrong? I don't think we were wrong. Everything that I saw from Jake Cousins, I saw one mistake pitch to a great hitter in Christian Walker, right? But with Cousins, those strikeouts, that is going to be, he's going to build off that. And they now have that on tape, and they're like, okay, we can work with this. And I mean, Matt Blake has only got to work with him for 2 days? So we always talk about, whoa, Matt Blake is going to turn water into wine. You got to give him more than 2 freaking days. And he still had 4 strikeouts. You know how difficult that is to just come right in and just have 4 strikeouts like that?
Well, who threw out of the bullpen yesterday? Was it Weaver?
Yeah, Luke Weaver went like 51 pitches.
Yeah. And so when I look at, I tend to look at stuff, because I can tell you right now, Jake, and me and you are nerds when it comes to baseball. We're going to try to take something out of a hideous game, okay? Because I can tell you right now, it's not fun to sit around and watch a 40-minute broadcast discussing about a baseball game where essentially we did nothing right, okay?
7-0.
However, if you really dive deep into the game, you will find things that we did well today, okay? It's just maybe more difficult to find, obviously. But when you're looking at a guy give up an absolute rocket ship out to left field, your instinct is, I want to turn this game off. I don't want to watch this. But then if you stick around and you say, okay, he ends up striking out 4, you can see the movement on his sinker that they probably were saying, we're going to go get that guy because of that pitch right there. You end up striking out 4 guys. Okay, now we can say, oh, maybe there's something to build on. And I can tell you right now, I personally didn't love what I saw from Victor Gonzalez. I'm not in love with his stuff. I know he's a lefty with a sinker ball. I got all that. It's sort of the Matt Blake way, but I just have never been in love with his stuff and in terms of what he brings to the table. So I think the Yankees are looking for one more guy that they can potentially rely on and squeeze like a lemon. So at the end of that game, you can at the very least see
and
what
he just
the Yankees
closed
potentially
yesterday.
Envisioned. That's yes.
So I wasn't a fan of that.
No, you actually text me about not liking that, and I completely agree with you.
And you don't see it because you're at the game, but they panned the camera into the dugout, And Aaron Boone goes over and he's like, "You good for a second inning?" He's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "No, absolutely not. Like, are you kidding me?" And then I think at that point, I know Cousins gave up the 3-run shot. 2 of those were Victor Gonzalez runs. So
that's right.
I mean, he put those guys on. Look, I'm not worried about the bullpen. I'm really not. They've been super taxed, and if anything, this is a win for the Yankees because it's a 7-0 game. You just got to see 4 strikeouts and 97% of good pitching out of Jake Cousins, despite that one really bad. It wasn't even that bad. I mean, it was, maybe mislocated, but you also have to give the batter his due. That was a great swing and just a great piece of hitting, and he launched it. But those are the things that you want to see. You want to see Volpe continue to look good at the plate. You want to see them continue their approach, even when the home plate umpire is struggling to give him the benefit of the doubt. You want to see Nestor Cortes not get into a jam, but when he does, can he get out of it? This was literally, I think somebody mentioned, I saw a tweet, was like, is Yes Network showing reruns? Because this looked like Nestor Cortes against the Astros, like the exact script. And
it really was.
And once again, he pitched out of it. I'm not about to give him all this praise for pitching out of it because he put them in the jam, and you could argue he's the one that kind of threw off the vibes. You're going up against Zach Gallen. They had a chance to get in on Zach Gallen. That Rizzo grounder was not ideal because they did get 2 walks in that inning with Gallen. I mean, Gonzalez, to me, they're going to use until the wheels come off. I think they kind of showed us that today. If they want him to go 2 innings after he just closed last night, they don't value him. They don't.
Right.
Like he's going to be a guy that gets replaced by a guy like Jake Cousins. And Cousins is a guy that people will rip to no end because they'll remember how they felt when Cousins gave up the home run, as in like that was the game, right? But then they're going to start to see this guy has good stuff. I'm not backing off on our analysis of him. I think we were dead right. He made a bad pitch. It happens. It's actually very likely to happen when you're throwing that many pitches. They let him go 2 innings, which was smart, and he got 4 strikeouts. I think there are some takeaways from this game. I think the biggest thing, though, the thing that helps them tomorrow, Gary, they barely used their bullpen,
which was nice. And that's where being a professional with Nestor Cortes, he obviously was butt cheek water in the first inning. But having said that, what he did from 2 through 5, it created an opportunity for the Yankees to, at the very least, manage the rest of this series. Because if I told you the Yankees were going to go win 5 of 6 to start the season, they were going to go sweep the Houston Astros, we were going to split the first 2 games in Arizona before we ever even get to Yankee Stadium. A couple question marks we had. We talked about, I wonder how Juan Soto is going to get comfortable in pinstripes. And if I told you he was hitting over 400 through the first 6 games of the season, or how about the fact that we've got Anthony Volpe, who we're basically saying he's hitting so well, we should potentially even have the conversation to shift him at leadoff. We're talking about, what do we do at third base? The Yankees never accomplished that. They never brought in anyone that we would be comfortable playing third base every day. And then you see Oswaldo Cabrera answering the bell. Doesn't mean he's going to be great long-term, but at the very least, he's showing up. And all of the question marks, for the most part, the Yankees have, in a way, answered. And I know it's not fun talking about a 7-0 game, but we also have to take our blinders off out of today and remember, we just won 5 games in a row to start the season. We had to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
We had to get off to this start. So we go in tomorrow and win a baseball game. We're talking about heading back to Yankee Stadium soon and being comfortable and talking about there's not any pressure on Aaron Judge to come out of this little mini slump or mini spring training that we're talking about here. Rizzo, we know what we're expecting out of Rizzo. He's going to rebound. And when it comes to Nestor Cortes, this whole first inning bug that he's dealing with, that's not a long-term thing. He's going to figure that out. I'm not expecting him maybe to return to ace form, but he'll be just fine. So all of the question marks, I'd say the last question mark that we really need to answer is Rodon back? And if he is, my expectation is that we continue to build off our approach, which has been 1,000 times better. We obviously took a baby step back today, but I'm expecting to take a huge jump forward tomorrow. So let's go.
I'm with you. And, that dives us right into a little bit of a sneak peek for tomorrow, since we don't really do full on breakdown videos of like games before they happen. Because I don't know, maybe we will at some point, but it's kind of like, what do you talk about? We don't have the lineup. Like, there's a lot of variables that are missing.
Corbin Carroll might have the day off. We never know.
God, if he has the day off tomorrow, like Michael K is going to go insane. Like,
I'm calling Verdugo just has a day off tomorrow.
I could totally see that. I don't know why.
I'm just calling that.
I kind of feel like Judge is going to have a day off tomorrow, because like Boone is going to be like, I just want him to. Hey, Boone has done a great job of managing, but there are some little things here and there I haven't loved. Like today, I didn't think he managed super well. There were things I liked, but again, the lineup wasn't great. Victor Gonzalez. Anyway, I'm not trying to like make fun of him, but I can totally see him saying, yeah, we want to give Judge like kind of just a day to just kind of like refresh and like reset. And, he's struggling a little bit, but you give him that day, take a step back, then he'll be back ready. Because he'll give him the extra day off because the travel day.
Yeah, that game check will clear though, I bet.
Yeah. So, Aaron Judge, I don't think plays tomorrow. I don't know why. I have a feeling.
Who's pitching for Arizona again? Is it McCarthy?
It is Merrill Kelly.
Kelly.
He had a good outing the last time, 8 strikeouts. He's not doing that this time. I don't. Well, we'll see if the other home plate umpire's bad. They've all been bad, but I don't think we're going to get anything like that anytime soon. This was a horrible night. Both obviously hitting, but the home plate umpire was the worst all year.
And, it was Helen Keller back there.
Yeah. So Carlos Rodon, I think, gets the win in this one. I think he goes another 4. Well, he doesn't get the actual win, right? But the Yankees win this game. I think Rodon goes another maybe 4 1/3, 4 2/3. They're going to keep it light on Rodon. I don't see them pushing him into the 5th, 6th inning, 7th inning. I think they really want to keep it light. And I think the reason they were okay with that with, a guy like, Stroman was pitching a lot in spring training. He is in a rhythm. I think that's one thing that I was taking away when I went back and I looked. He had some really good spring training games. Rodon had some where you're like, that wasn't great, So
he got absolutely shelled towards the end of spring training. So
yeah.
And he showed some flashes, and then at the very end, he was showing velocity, which we liked.
Yeah.
But I also don't necessarily love this matchup for Rodon. And I know I've made a huge prediction that he was going to be spectacular, mid-2s ERA. I mean, 2.5 is probably a little aggressive.
Well, he's 2.08 ERA right now.
He does. But, I mean, 2.5 is probably aggressive. Even a 3 we would take the hell out of it. But let me say this. It's a really tough matchup because there's a couple things working against Rodon. Doesn't mean it's an impossible start, but some things to mention. Okay, you look at the way the Diamondbacks lineup is built. We're expecting Corbin Carroll to play tomorrow. He's usually pretty good against left-handed pitchers. Usually stays on the ball well. Obviously, you can see what he does with his bat. The way
he's
he runs.
going yard tomorrow, 100%.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But look at the rest of this lineup, okay? And I'm not just naming off the list. Okay, Ketel Marte. So he's a switch hitter. So he's going to be facing him righty.
He's given them problems already.
Okay, Alexander, who the Diamondbacks just for whatever reason decided that Blaze Alexander was going to come out of their system and hit 2 out of the DH spot, and he's been swinging a hot bat immediately. Okay, so that's another right-handed bat. Gurriel, who we all know, he went 0 for 5 today. So
he's had a rough early series, but he seems like those are the guys that scare me. I don't look at those guys like, oh, they're just not going to hit. Like I look at that guy like he could explode tomorrow, Yeah,
that's right. But then also we just saw Christian Walker essentially exit the stadium, another right-handed bat. Right after him is Suarez. And then we know what Gabriel Moreno does. So when you talk about the way lineups are built, and we talked about why the Yankees need more left-handed bats, they need to give better looks against right-handed pitching. They were just giving them fits. Well, the Diamondbacks have the opposite problem. The Diamondbacks have stacked their lineup with some switch hitters, a lot of righties, okay? That doesn't necessarily bode well for a left-handed pitcher.
No.
Maybe you can get away with it if you're a Nestor Cortes. He pitched pretty well today. He works in and out. But Carlos Rodon is going to be working up and down. He's a fly ball pitcher, strikeout guy. And in Arizona, the ball flies. So I don't love the matchup tomorrow. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm going to be honest with everybody on this channel. I'm not always going to predict that the Yankees are just going to dominate every game. I think that Rodon has a huge test tomorrow. He's going to have to miss bats if he wants to get outs, and he can do it because, of course, I mean, this is the reason we gave him the contract. But at the same time, I need to make sure that I'm giving people credit where it's due in the challenge that's ahead.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And, I think yesterday, Christian Walker gets struck out 3 times, comes back today, has the biggest, play of the game, I would argue. I mean, that's the one where when ESPN tries to cover baseball for 2 seconds, they're going to show that. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're going to be like, oh, Diamondbacks won, and it's just that. That's the entire game. To be fair, there wasn't a ton that happened. I know there's 7 runs, but yeah, I get you. It's why I think they're going to be really cautious how they use Rodon. Tomorrow's a bullpen game, in my opinion, on the Yankees side. I think Kelly's going to have a solid outing. I think the Yankees win this one close, 5-4. I think they do just enough at the end. They get some, big plays, big hits. I think somebody like Volpe, somebody like Cabrera, the way they've been hitting the ball, I can't predict any of the guys that are struggling right now to do anything. I just can't. There's nothing that leads me to believe that, Aaron Judge tomorrow, if he plays, is going to go off. You know what I mean? Besides the fact that he's Aaron Judge, he's not hitting well. He's a tick off, and that will come. Give it time. But like Stanton, if he's in the lineup tomorrow, I think it already puts the Yankees at a disadvantage. Like, I think tomorrow should be, I said it today, tomorrow should be a John Birdie day. Put him in the lineup. I think you need that contact bat in there. A guy that's willing to work the counts. And, I'm not trying to say sit Oswaldo Cabrera, because the way he's playing right now, I leave him at third. See
Are
what
you
he
saying
can
Austin
do.
Wells should be playing?
Yes, Austin Wells should be playing. Good God. Rizzo. So Austin Wells, Rizzo, Glaber, Volpe, Cabrera. And then left field, you have Doogie out. You say he has an off off day. Who's going to take over for him?
No, so I could just see that, but I'm going to actually predict that Glaber Torres has the day off, and they actually move either Oswaldo or Volpe. And I'm going to go with Volpe because Volpe had essentially a de facto day off a couple days ago by being sick. So Volpe's going to be playing tomorrow. I'm going to assume that Torres is getting the day off, and they're going to slide someone over at second base, and it just gives us that extra infielder that potentially we would use. So I'm going to say that Verdugo does play, because I would be shocked to just give up a left-handed bat when you've got a right-hander going tomorrow. So I just think it's a better move to keep him in the lineup one more day, give Glaber a day off. And I can't stand days off, but when you're not playing well, I think that's the best time to give him a day off.
That was kind of my rationale behind, and I don't love the idea of it, but I could totally see him sitting Judge. Don't you feel like part of you is like, if they lose this game, there's like a bad taste left in your mouth that like they lost the series? Like I don't feel like they should lose this series. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying necessarily that it's you or me, but like, say you're the Yankees. Doesn't that kind of like weather, your happy storm, essentially? Like you're feeling great, you're doing damage, you have, 5 wins, you have your, 1 loss, and then you lose again. And it's like, not that I just lost 2 straight, but we lost the series, against a team that we really dominated in the first game.
I can see why you would feel that way and why someone else would feel that way. It's just that's just baseball, because
of course,
baseball, and this, you can go watch the Dodgers play. I think the Dodgers are really just a great example of exactly what you're talking about. If you go watch the Dodgers play, they are the most fun team in baseball to watch win. I don't care what anybody says. They're essentially a Dodger Stadium. It's rocking. Everyone's got Dodger dogs. Everyone's dressed nice. They show up late to the game. They've got Ohtani. They've got all the fun players hitting bombs, pitching great. They got everybody, right? And it's essentially Hollywood. Everyone's just having a good time. But then you go watch the Dodgers lose 3 straight at home. It'll be like to the St. Louis Cardinals, the most random sweep you ever saw. And then go ask Dodgers fans how they're feeling about the series. They legitimately, and this has nothing to do with Dodgers fans or Yankees fans or any other fan base. That's just the way baseball is. I was at the game today. I was at the game, okay? It felt like the Yankees were being no hit. That's how bad it felt like they lost this game. There was no sign of life whatsoever. If this game continued for 18 innings, I would have expected the Yankees to score maybe 1 run. That's the way it felt. So it's just hard to make long-term judgments about how I felt. And even in the short term, how do I feel after a loss like that, after winning 5 straight games? Because winning 5 straight games, it's almost like watching the Yankees go up 3-0 during the 2004 ALCS, and then they lose game 4, and everyone's looking around going, man, that felt terrible. I mean, hopefully we don't blow this. And it's like, part of the reason why you end up blowing it is because you're thinking about the negativity of the game rather than remembering, okay, we lost game 4, but remember, we're up 3-1 going into a game for the opportunity to go to the World Series. So we need to try and do our best to shift our mentality away from this, not a negative mentality, but staring at what needs to improve, because trying to stare and find things to improve in games where you just get absolutely wrecked is just such a hard thing to accept, because it makes you feel like a worse baseball team than we really are. So I'm expecting tomorrow to just look like a completely different unit. I'm expecting the umpiring to not be dog water, and it'll probably be less than satisfactory. I mean, what can we expect? But I promise you it won't be as bad as it was today, unless CB Buckner's back there. So we'll see.
Yeah, hopefully it's not as bad as it was today. But yeah, I got the Yankees winning 5-4. I don't think Rodon gets the qualified win, but leads them to a win. Kind of like Heel. It seems so unfair that Heel didn't get that win. Like there's something weird. Like, I understand the rule. You have to pitch 5 innings to be qualified. At the same time, I came out when we were up 5-0. We never lost the lead. You know what I mean?
So why would the next guy get a win then? That it doesn't. What did he do that the starting
like Luke Weaver got the win. He's the only one that gave up runs.
Yeah, but no, I'm actually asking, what is baseball's explanation for what Luke Weaver did in that game that wasn't done from Luis Heel?
Yeah, well, and then there's also the weird one. Do you remember? Oh, I forgot the guy's name. That guy that got a save because he pitched like 4 innings, but like they were up by like 12.
Oh, so they were up 12 and then he basically brought it back down to 3 and then got the save?
No, I mean, he was fine. I don't think he gave up like any runs or anything, but it was just funny. Like, they're up 12. It's like, yeah, that's a save. And it's just like, so doesn't it seem like we have that backwards? Like 4 1/3 innings, you're up 5-0. You never lose the lead. The guy who comes in is the closest thing to jeopardizing it, and he gets the win. But then you could be up by 12, and the guy pitched 4 innings, so he gets a save. Like, he's not saving anything. Like,
no, it's a stupid rule. It's a stupid rule. It's just, and you know what doesn't sit right with me? This is kind of off topic, but it reminds me of your Rodon prediction. The fact that we're predicting him to go less than 5 innings when we paid him $160 million. Now, I'm not saying he won't, because he very well could. I predicted him to be excellent this year, but the fact that we even could you imagine saying, hey, yeah, I really think that Yamamoto, we gave him $325 million. He ended up signing with the Yankees, but he hopefully goes at 4 1/3, win by committee. We go win a tough game. Could you imagine if we were talking like that?
I know, because you get guys like Rodon to have those days off for your bullpen where you're like, okay, you guys can breathe. We're not going to overuse you. We might use one of you, like Clay Holmes. You might be coming in the 9th, but we want to go 8 strong with Rodon because he's our ace, and that's what we paid.
That's
him
the whole point, by the way.
The only
reason we ever paid Carlos Rodon is so that we can say, hey, you throw the baseball in his glove and you get the hell out of the way. And he goes out there, and in the 8th inning, you have Boone coming out and say, hey, great start, big dog, and then you go hand it to somebody up 4-1. That's what the whole signing was about, not to go grind out and workhorse your way through 4 2/3 and then sit around and say, man, do we give him an extra out so he can qualify for a win? Since when does a guy making $25-30 million a year, are we trying to get him to grind through? Could you imagine talking about CC Sabathia in like 2010 being like, hey man, hopefully CC can go grind out 5 for us today? What?
I mean, I guess the question is really, how good is Rodon? Because he's had, if you go through, his seasons, 9-6 with a 3.75 ERA, 1.44 WHIP. That was his rookie year. Then, 9-10, 4.04 ERA, 1.39 WHIP. Then 2017, 2-5, 4.15 ERA, 1.37 WHIP. Then 2018, you got 4.18 ERA, 1.26 WHIP. It's like so he started in 2015. And when you bring up his 13-5 season, that's his first season where he was legitimately above 500 as a starter.
His only good season was in my opinion. He was in the All-Star game in 2021. His only good year of his entire baseball career, and this is my opinion, I thought 2016 was serviceable, but 2022 was his only good year. He threw 178 innings, okay? He has thrown less than 133 innings in every single other year of his career, minus 2015. Okay, that's 9 years ago. So we're talking about last year, he threw 64 innings. We obviously know the type of issues that he was dealing with physically, so we won't even count that.
But it makes you wonder, though, the injuries, and it's like, I'm not trying to hate on the guy, but he's 31 years old. Right. And it's like, maybe the Yankees got scammed.
I'm not even talking about his... See, this is the crazy part. I'm not even talking about my opinion yet. All I'm bringing up is that when you look at innings,
I was just looking at facts.
The only guys that should be making $30 million that you're like, hey, maybe this guy could be like this little super 2, because that's what the Yankees, I think, in my opinion, envision is this super 2 who could go behind Garrett Cole. Well, awesome. Well, when has a super 2 struggled to throw 140 innings? We get on Marcus Stroman all day long. I've mentioned Marcus Stroman's durability and the fact that he hasn't been able to consistently surpass 140 innings. It's very difficult to do. Big guys, essentially the big money pitchers get paid to do exactly that. Pitch over 150 innings, probably get to 175 like a Corbin Burns. But Carlos Rodon has got over 175 innings literally once in 10 years.
And he's signed with a full no trade clause, by the way. Signed until
I didn't know
2029.
Okay.
My thing is, this is just us being thought-provoking. We're not trying to say that Rodon is, he was a scam or a bust or whatever. It just makes you wonder, like, okay, maybe, because I will say this, I'm not going to criticize him and not give my perspective on this. I wanted Rodon. I loved this move. I thought it was a great move. You saw a guy, coming from the Giants, 2.88 ERA, 1.03 WHIP, and I watched him pitch 178 innings. Now that we do this show, I'm more, cognizant of these stats, right? Then I think I was so used to the current, at that point in time when keep in mind, they get him. And so he's 31 now, and he'll be 32 in December, right? So he was 30 in 2023, and he was 29 when they got him.
That's right.
So a 6-year deal for a 29-year-old having a 2.88 ERA, 2.37 the year prior, I'm not really worried about what he did. I'm thinking this guy figured it out. And then he has the injury, so he's actually kind of that puzzle right now that you just don't know. Anybody that says they know who Carlos Rodon is, anybody that says they know he's going to turn the tide or he's a bust, you don't. And I think that's the kind of almost the beauty in the mystery here, is that we're going to find out who the hell this guy is this year, as long as he stays healthy.
He's this super project. We know he can strike guys out, but at no point has he proven that he can consistently workhorse through a season. So if he can do that, then the Yankees got themselves a gem. They essentially got themselves a big game pitcher. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for somebody that they can throw the ball in his glove in the postseason and say, hey, I know you maybe threw 145 innings. We kind of struggled to get you through the year, but he's got the high-end ability to go shut down a Los Angeles Dodgers in a World Series game or go shut down the Houston Astros in a postseason in the ALCS. That's the reason he's here. So maybe he isn't a type of guy who's going to go give you 180 innings, but as long as he's got that ceiling where he can go to where hardly any pitchers in the world can go, then it's money well spent. But obviously remains to be seen. And I can't even give you a prediction of what's going to happen because, like you said, we have no clue what
I told you that I think he'll have a good year, but good is not ace. Good is not justifying his entire contract. I think he's just going to have a good year. I think he'll turn things around. I see a guy with a high 3 ERA. You know, I don't see that guy. Based on what I've seen in New York, I don't see him ever having a sub 3 ERA again over a course of a season. And I doubt he pitches 178 innings, which was a career high back in 2022. So, you know, again, and we don't want to just, you know, be Debbie Downers or anything. It's just being realistic, you know.
No, we're frankly just feeding. We're just feeding numbers. That's all we're doing.
Feeding numbers,
and that's what we're supposed to do.
It's not just out of left field. This is the guy who's on the hill tomorrow, you know? So it kind of came up, but yeah, I mean, hopefully he can get it done. I think he does enough for them to, again, you know, swap him out 4 1/3, 4 2/3. And I think we're going to see a lot of those 4 1/3, 4 2/3. I think Boone likes them, to be honest with you. I think he likes them because he goes in knowing I got, at least if I get 4 2/3, my bullpen is so good and our hitters are going to work counts that starting pitcher on the other side, like we saw with Gallen, we've seen Gallen keep his pitch count in check and go the distance for a complete game shutout. The Yankees did a job of getting him out of the game.
Yeah, but hasn't Boone watched enough Yankees baseball just by sitting in the dugout and said, man, we've got this really good bullpen and I just squeeze them like a jelly donut until September.
Well, no, and I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just, you know, I'm reading the tea leaves, and essentially that's
got to change.
That is what it is. You know, that's how he uses the bullpen. So I think he goes into games thinking if I can get 5 innings out of Carlos Rodon, then we're in good shape. If I can get 5 innings out of Nestor, we're in good shape. And now I think there's a trust factor with Stroman, and he's going to go, you know, until he has 100 pitch count. You know, and Heel, I'm just trying to get 5 innings out of Heel. Clark, I'm just trying to get 5 innings out of you. So when Cole comes back, they're also going to be I think they're going to be really easy on him. You had mentioned this might be the way they just choose to play baseball this year, because I think they have a lot of confidence in their pen. And I mean, with good reason, but at the same time, like you talked about, you worry about that wear and tear and, you know, depreciating your bullpen to the point where you get to September. And I don't know if you ever had, you know, those metabolic, the scales, right? The smart scales.
Mm-hmm.
It tells you like, well, your metabolic age is 27 and you're actually 28. Like, okay, cool. That bullpen, metabolic age.
They're aging like Miguel Tejada. They're like 35 and they're really 28.
It's like, oh yeah, it's September. Your bullpen is into next year. Like it's like you're not ready for the postseason. That's the concern that you have, and that's the concern that I have. Because the great thing about a bullpen is when they're fresh, they're dominant. You know, the Yankees especially, and you know, with Blake. But when they're not fresh, we saw Clay Holmes is an example, a living, breathing example. Clay Holmes in that final game against the Astros, they snuck out. He's an example of what happens when you overtax your bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much true. And I would probably say that the majority of our listeners have already spoken about that. Like we actually have discussed that. And having said that,
our listeners are the best.
They are. But it's almost like Boone did, in a way, try and make that adjustment. Because remember, I said, hey, did you notice when Marcus Stroman was in the 5th inning. He was in the 6th inning. We said, like they probably seem like they might pull him here. And he left him in. That's very uncharacteristic, very uncharacteristic of Aaron Boone. And he did the opposite. So he did exactly what we would like. He squeezed that extra inning out and didn't say, well, I've just got this super reliever out there, someone I'm comfortable with, someone who I've seen over the years. I'm going to go with him. He kept Marcus Stroman in the game and he powered through, and it helped the Yankees. So having said that, I'm going to leave faith in the fact that Rodon can actually put some innings out there. I know you said you're expecting a 4 1/3 inning. I'm hoping he can go into the 6th inning. If he can do that, I'll be wildly impressed and I'll be happy with it. That's all I got.
I'm with you, man. Can't believe we went an hour after the Yankees lost. We're thinking, man, Yankees lost. They had 3 hits. They didn't get walks. They struck out a bunch. Like, what the hell are we going to talk about? And then here we are. This is one of the longer episodes. So appreciate you guys sticking around with us. It's been a lot of fun, and we are growing this channel, and it's because of you guys. Keep the comment section rolling. Love reading those comments. We might not get back to you right away because I know there were some people that were commenting like it was like a chat, and it's like, and I love that. But we might not get back to you right away. We will get back to you though, and it's so much fun interacting. And I mean, hey, I understand these are the professionals, but sometimes you have a better idea of what's happening than Boone. Sometimes you are right, whether you realize it or not. So always voice your opinion. But that's going to do it for us. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr. You can follow us. Our tags are below at JK Bogan, at Gary Sheffield Jr. on all social media. And be sure to follow at Yankees Unloaded on all of social media. We will be back with another recap. Hopefully a Yankees 6th win of the season and another series win. But until then, we'll see you guys soon.
And like this video.